and they could get more scholarships, have more people around them, and just know that they're truly supported and get them more information that sometimes us as Black people don't really get exposure to, and utilizing that, and also explaining to them like we were there once before, so we're trying to be here to help you as best we can.
Thank you very, very much. And as a matter of fact, a particular thank you for Paris Holly. She is traveling and agreed to be with us today. We appreciate that. Brother, author, Nimrod Shabazz, now having heard from our other special guests, so you as our guest, your reaction, and by the way, introduce us to Nimrod Shabazz. Please go right ahead. Oh, I'm sorry, your mute is on. I don't know if you're responding or if you heard me. Yes, sir.
I'm supposed to say something?
Oh, let me reframe my question.
Okay.
We've had an introduction from Attorney Valencia Broadus, who is sponsoring Young Leadership. And we have had one of those young leaders who is also creating younger than her leaders. They are two Black women, and we are looking at one of your books that deals with Black women in Black history. And I was saying, by way of an introduction to Nimrod Shabazz, tell us a little about yourself and how we got to this point.
Okay. I will say first that I don't believe, Black women aren't given enough credit. And we as men need to do a better job in protecting our queen. This is not to say that I'm perfect. This is not to say that anybody's perfect, but we need to do a better job. I know Valencia personally, haven't talked to her in years, but the person that Valencia is, she comes with a lot of energy. Unless she's changed drastically in the last couple of years. I knew Valencia when she was just getting started, and she was a force of nature then. And I will apologize to her. She was a part of the Black Poets Collective. And I don't know, it used to be a household name in Kansas City, that she was a part of the group, and she was always helping, always volunteering, always trying to put the word out. And she didn't get enough credit. The women that were affiliated with the group didn't get enough credit for their endeavors. And so I applaud these two ladies for doing something, standing up, trying to advance the cause. I know Ms. Taylor has advanced her work, and I can sit back and I'm in awe, and I can really look and see the progression that she's made over the years. I'm not as familiar with the other young lady, but I can tell that she, she's probably just as dangerous. She comes with a mission. She's focused. And, whatever I can do to help, that's, I will do that. In regard to who I am, I will simply take a line from Boba Fett in The Mandalorian. I am simply a humble man trying to go peacefully through the galaxy. And I'm trying to be Prometheus and bring fire to my people. And what I mean fire to my people, I want to bring knowledge to my people. So what I've done is I have started a series of books, and I will be adding to these books because I see it's an endless amount of subject matter. I started a series called Black History for Beginners. I wanted a series. A lot of people are not into reading. So I didn't want something like a 300-page book dealing with history. I wanted something not too much more than a 100-page book. They had facts to back it up, but it was kind of in a narrative style. It was fairly easy to read, fairly easy to get into, but it revolved around some concepts. My latest book is called Sojourner Truth, the Suffrage Movement, and the Unprotected Black Woman. And I believe that if you do history and you wrap it around concepts, then you can a little bit better understand. We all know, or we all heard of Sojourner Truth, but people don't know the real Sojourner Truth. There's been a lot of lies told about Sojourner Truth, especially this "ain't I a woman." Sojourner Truth never talked in a Southern dialect. She was raised in New York. Her first language was Dutch. She was Afro-Dutch. And even the daughter of one of her old slave masters was upset because they did not like the way she was depicted. But this was for profit. This was for, there was other reasons why she was depicted the way she was. She was 6 foot tall. She was slim. Even though she was illiterate, she was a very, very savvy woman, and she was very determined. And I see in her what I see in a lot of Black women. They are unprotected, but that does not mean that they have not progressed. The suffrage movement is something, it was around before Sojourner Truth, but the suffrage movement really, we learned this in high school, but it did a disservice to Black people in a certain respect. It also did a disservice to Black women on the whole. We also talk about these so-called white heroines, these white heroes, Susan B. Anthony, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, who were basically flaming racist, and the unprotected Black woman. The first chapter, I go into some statistics about Black women, and we've all heard about George Floyd and some of the other Black men that were killed under dubious circumstances with white police. But we very rarely hear about the Black women, the scores of Black women that have been assaulted by the police, killed, and so forth. The only one really last year that came to light was Breonna Taylor, and that's a couple of months after this whole incident had taken place. When you read the first chapter, when I was doing my research, I didn't even know about a lot of these Black women that had gone disappearing. So it's a disservice. And then we deal with the fact that since they're not pretty white damsels in distress, whatever happens to them is not necessarily broadcast as much because this Black women being shot and killed doesn't sell as many papers as it does somebody white, dainty. And I didn't bring this up because I didn't want to go in this direction, but I could just look at the whole Megan Thee Stallion thing with the little dude, I forgot, the little midget she was dating. Every time, right after that incident, we still don't exactly know what happened, okay? But right after that happened, we do know that she got shot in the foot, okay? There are hospital data to support that. We do know somebody shot her. We do know that he was in the car. But right after that happened, you had a lot of people laughing at this woman who had been assaulted.
My God. Now, excuse my interruption, but
go ahead. You have to cut me off because I can keep going.
That's all right. I need two things.
Okay.
The first thing, and I am likely to ask you to repeat it, is how we can avail ourselves of your books, of your series, if you have podcasts, whatever it might be. Okay. And then we'll go to the ladies.
My books are on Amazon.com. You can, if you have Kindle, you can download. I believe if you're a Prime member, you can access the Kindle free. I have a podcast. It's called The Great Migration Podcast that we usually host on the first Tuesday, on the second Tuesday of each month. If you Google Great Migration Podcast, you should, Black History for Beginners. It might be a couple of things before me.
All right. For those of you who are listening, and for those of you, by the way, who are watching, you're hearing the voice of Nimrod Shabazz. We're talking particularly about books he has written, but he also has a podcast, The Great Migration He is a Black historian, and today's focus is on African American women, Black women in history. We have with us attorney Valencia Broaddus. Is it Dr. Paris Holly, or is there a nomenclature I need to recognize?
No, there's not. It's just Miss
Okay,
Paris.
but for either of you, in as much as we're talking about Black women, have you any comments and or questions for Nimrod Shabazz?
I do. I want to first just say, Brother Nimrod, that when we did the Black Poets Collective, I just want to share this. It was so amazing and empowering because when I came into the group, there were a few ladies there. I didn't see them much, but what I saw all the time was these brothers, Gino and all you guys, and they were always, though, really. And I always say, we say spitting words, but really it was seriously telling truth, telling about history, and telling about the struggle of Black people. At the Blue Room, we were down there all the time, and as they would share, it's like, wow, especially someone coming from like a little Columbia where we didn't really get all that, Black movement. So it was interesting. Good morning, Miss Jasmine.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Attorney Valencia Broaddus. This is someone whom you know quite well. Let's let her introduce herself, and then please, we want you to resume. Who is with us right now?
Hello, it's Jasmine Hart.
We are.
And who are you, Miss Jasmine? I mean, tell them about you. What you got going on with yourself?
I'm in college. Just cruising through school and trying to get everything done.
And I had mentioned earlier that generally the group comes on with us on first Saturdays rather than second Saturdays. And Jasmine, we generally speak to the program as being the family with a heart. And that is because of your family. You came in at a moment when Attorney Valencia Broaddus was talking to our very special guest author, Nimrod Shabazz. And we will ask you to join the conversation as you hear what we're talking about. We're going to go back, please, to Valencia Broaddus.
No, thank you. Wanted just to share that when we because there were men, Black men, they were always really sharing information and truth and history of what's going on in Kansas City. So as a newcomer to Kansas City, I actually learned a lot through the Black Poets Collective and just a lot of the conversations. And honestly, what I found is, and we'll talk about this a little more, throughout, what I found is, even as a girl, and I just say it that way, a girl, female coming to the table, that, the guys, you never didn't let me speak. They would let me get up and do my poetry because I like to write. They would let us all do it. And the reason that's important is because, sometimes, and Brother, Nimrod, you talk about it in your book, a little being at the table. And so sometimes we're not at the table. But interestingly, whether it's a Black male or a white male, because as Brother Nimrod shared in his book, when I read, some of it, there's a piece where because you're a man, you also have privilege. And sometimes if y'all don't let us to the table, then, I became a household name and all that. Yeah, because I did the legal stuff, but it was also because people let me get on their stages and on their platforms and talk and speak and share about everything that I was doing. And so the Black Poets Collective was my first group that I, was a part of when I came, that allowed me to begin to speak and share and talk about youth development and all that. So I thank you guys for that, because sometimes people, they don't let you in their circle. And that's a whole nother issue about economic development. But anyway, and in the Black community, but you all let us do that and work with our young people. And so just want to say that. But other than that, I'm excited. I started reading. I was like, okay, I didn't know, I knew you did poetry. I didn't know you were an author. I was like, okay, this is good stuff. And our young people, and Jasmine may share a little bit more with this later, if she wants, we're always trying to get them to know more and more about not just Black history, but about famous, awesome Black people, because we want us to be able to, she wants to be a doctor and all that. We want them to be able to emulate people that look like them. And so we have to see them and see the information and from us. So I'm going to stop right there.
Thank you. And what I would like to ask of Paris Holly as it relates to enjoying the conversation with our very special guest, author Nimrod Shabazz, is how you view it from the perspective of young leadership. I often talk about my age and dealing with civil rights in the 50s and 60s. Nimrod Shabazz, being the professor that he is, we could benefit, Paris Holly, from your perspective from a younger viewpoint.
From a younger viewpoint, with everything that's going on right now, especially like the Breonna Taylor, the George Floyd, I think it's really good for some of us to really hear our history from us. We don't get a lot of that. That's not what we get in school. So it's like really finding some truth outside of being told, oh, this is what it is, because even in schools, they're changing a lot of history. So what you guys grew up with was the truth versus we're growing up with like a filtered version. Like even if you think of books like Moby Dick, how they tried to take out what they really said so it could benefit somebody else, but that is our history. And I think it's just really great to hear and understand. And for those females who weren't taught that, who feel like they're always up against the wall, it's like they'll always have a disadvantage being not only Black, but being a woman. And they get to like hear about it and understand it and open their eyes to something they may not have known in the first place. So I like it. I'm enjoying going through the book.
Outstanding. Nimrod Shabazz, anything from what you've heard?
A couple of things. One of the things, just real quick, the Black Horse Collective, we initially realized we had a little bit too much testosterone. And we tried to make a pact that the ladies who did come into the organization, and we would treat them with respect. We probably should have given them more of a voice. But to be honest with you, I was just so happy. I was a writer, and it is very hard to find another Black writer. It's very hard to find another Black male writer. So I have more luck finding Black female authors than I do Black male authors. And we were all spoken word poets, but it was something unique to me. I had never been around that many guys who wrote. I mean, it was beautiful. We would get together, and originally how we would go in a circle, and one person would get out and they would read something, and another person would be like, oh, I got something like that. And so we would all feed off each other. We would critique each other's work. And at one point in time, we just was like, well, we need to make money off this. We think people will start coming. And we started doing a lot of stuff in the community. We went to Leavenworth Prison. We got involved with some of the brothers down there. We had some kind of pipeline. When they got out, we would try to find them jobs. A lot of stuff we were able to do. Okay. And hooking up with people like Valencia really, enabled us to go in different directions. In regard to what she's saying is, I don't know if you guys have more watered down history. And the reason I say that is the state of Texas only 2 years ago decided to make slavery they decided to let the history books that they're educating the kids with, to let slavery finally be one of the major causes for the Civil War. Up until 2 years ago, they didn't even want to talk about it. In some southern states, it's called the War of Northern Aggression.
Mm-hmm.
that Black people were silent, eating watermelon and eating barbecue. And this is the reason why when we really talked about systemic racism, whites are like, what are you talking about? Because they view slavery as something totally different. If you read the book, even in the first chapter, and I'm talking about some of the slaves, and one of the slave masters sued the overseer because the overseer was so zealous in his punishment, he decided to nail the slave's penis to the wall and proceeded to whoop him. And then he, trying to get away, pulled the penis off the tack. I mean, stuff like this is what happened. Women were not even able to decide who they were going to marry, who they were going to have sex with. So when we talk about chattel slavery, and I'm sorry, you're going to cut me off. We talk about chattel slavery when people say, oh, every culture had slavery. Yes, every culture in history more or less has had slavery, but chattel slavery was something totally different. If you look at, go ahead.
No, finish your sentence and then I'll.
If you look at the slavery that took part in most of the other societies, it was not chattel slavery. You were still allowed to speak your own language. You were still allowed to marry how you wanted to. You were still allowed to, worship who you wanted to worship. It was not this punishment. It was not this. Basically, Black slaves were treated like dogs and bred like dogs.
My God.
That's what we talk about when we talk about chattel slavery.
All right. Thank you so much. Let me remind those who are watching and listening that this is Wave Your Grades. We are on KUAW.org. Please remember, Louis George Walker, when founding this particular station, used the letters KUAW to stand for knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. Before the program is over, as I am wont to do on most every occasion, I will be asking Mr. Walker to remind us the various ways that you can access KUAW. Our very special guests today you have heard from and are hearing from author Nimrod Shabazz, attorney Valencia Broaddus. We have heard from Paris Holly. And now on Wave Your Grades, I'd like to give Jasmine an opportunity to chime in if you feel that you've heard enough from our guests. And you are always prepared, so I know you're prepared for the program, but please, Jasmine, what are your observations so far?
Growing up and even younger than I think I will probably say I'm the youngest one here.
Mhm.
They're still continuing. There's younger Black people that are going out and sharing their voice about their Black history. I feel like that it's being protruded now that we are in home and it is now Black History Month. Instead of having teachers and people in our schools teaching us Black histories, we're getting actually taught from Black history now that we're inside, because our parents are teaching us and we're not having to learn out of a book that basically waters down all the history and trying to fit it into 1 month. And then at that, it's the only month that you talk about it, because after Black History Month, they go back to teaching regular history as like white history. And that's not like, white history comes from Black history, and Black history is so much more than just a month. And I'm glad that since we're in quarantine and we're actually getting to learn from people who are Black, who can teach us more than just something that's out of a history book.
I appreciate that so much. And by the way, I will have reason to say a very profound thank you to Paris Holly and Jasmine Hart. I'll tell you why. But when I mentioned the various ways to tune in to KUAW.org, Brother Walker, I saw you lean in and then I went on to someone else. So please go ahead. All right. Thank you, thank you, thank you so very much. And by the way, needless to say, I don't have to tell you that when you want to chime in on the conversation, please do. Before I go back to Brother Shabazz and ask Brothers Walker and Shabazz whether or not you see it in a similar way, as an elder, I want to say thank you to the Parises and Jasmines of the world, brothers, in this way. While Paris attributes to our generation a more authentic interpretation of our history, we are in fact thanking Paris, those who are younger, for being as assertive, as aggressive, as intentional as you are about giving us the right education rather than the wrong schooling. We are in your debt. We say thank you to you because your generation is not accepting what we were compelled to when we were your age. And Attorney Broadus, let me go back first to Arthur Shabazz and then come to you. Brother Shabazz, any remarks?
You asked earlier, how do you, it all comes down to just, to me, reading and just being aware. People, I don't think anybody's as zealous as I am about the news. I'll have two laptops going and I'll have, CNN or Fox News. Yes, I do listen to Fox News.
My condolences.
Well, no, and here's the thing that I want people to realize.
I understand.
If you want to figure out what the enemy is thinking, I mean, you listen to them. Yep. And it's not necessarily even with the enemy. It's because I listen to both sides, CNN and Fox.
Yes.
CNN does a lot of what Fox News does too. They just don't do as much of it. Most people don't realize people like Sean Hannity, he is a commentator. He's not a news person.
Right.
So he talks about something, he's giving his opinion. And he's going to give a biased opinion because he's trying to keep his slot. So he doesn't care about how much verbal masturbation he puts out there. As a matter of fact, he got sued. Fox News got sued, and their defense was, you can look this up, their defense was no intelligent person who listens to Tucker Carlson would believe what he would say.
and believe me, yes, believe me, I was being facetious, by the way, when I said that. I do peruse both and all, so MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, ABC, CBS, NBC. And
now, and the real right wing, I have to drink some coffee when I'm listening to them because they're a little bit out there.
Oh yeah,
Fox News used to be.
And let us keep in mind, please, for those who indeed are younger than we, there was a time, believe it or not, when we had three major TV stations: ABC, NBC, and CBS, and we had a local station in Chicago like WGN. But let us not forget that the way media treated us then, when we did not talk about liberal versus conservative, was not very kind. And if you read author Nimrod Shabazz, if you pay attention to these pages, he points out that when media depicted African-American women, when you looked at something called, for instance, the welfare queen, you saw an obese woman of color, when at the same time that there were more white people on welfare than there were black, but the stereotypical kind of caricature that they put up was offensive to Black women, and that was a long time before Fox. So I understand you, brother, and I appreciate you so much. I thought that Attorney Broadus had a question or comment.
Yes, I do have one. I first want to go to Jasmine, though, because Jasmine, she was thinking a lot. And so I want to, if you'll let me, please, I want her to share her thought, because she was like, yes, no. So
okay.
Talk to us a little bit.
When he was talking about how he listens to CNN and Fox, I could really relate to that, because during all this, from all the way back into the summer, I got more feed of Tommy Lauren. I don't know if you guys know who that is, but she was on Fox, and I don't know if she's still on there, because I watch her Tommy Talks that she does, and she posts them on Facebook, so I can just get and see where people like her think and how the right wing thinks, so I can be like prepared, and how I can think of things to say when I'm just out or and about, and somebody might come up to me and say something that they believe. I like to think on both sides and see both sides, so I will know how to come against if there was any debate about the Black history and all that. So I could really relate. And then I want to go back to what he was saying about how the millennials and Gen Z I wouldn't say that they are not accepting, because nobody accepts how Black people are being treated in the world. But I think that it's the fact that we have more influencers that are able to get their voice across, because nobody listens to people who don't have a following nowadays. So it's more influencers getting their voice out, and that's what's making them being heard. It's not that the fact that we're not accepting it anymore, it's just more people speaking out about it. So
right. Paris, anything on that? I think I saw you nodding.
I was just agreeing with her. Like, that's really how it is. That's all.
Okay. Brother Shabazz, Sister Valencia Broadus, do you know Natasha Ria El Skari?
Absolutely, yes.
The reason I asked is because in the 1990s, when we were doing the Generation Rap, Natasha was actually my co-host on Channel 19 on Teens Talking to Teens. And one of the incidents that she related was she was subbing at Southwest High School. And she had an incident at a program where the young people were out of order. And as a matter of fact, were attempting to suggest that they weren't going to pay any attention. By the time she finished one of her poems, they were wrapped. It was just not only because of the way, the style, but the substance was so important to high school students. Brother Shabazz, I think that sometimes we give our young people less credit than they are due for how serious they take us when they believe we are authentic. So I just wanted to take advantage of an opportunity to mention Natasha Gibson or Natasha Ria El Skari. So I did.
It was funny because she was a stalwart member of the Black Force Collective too.
Yes.
And she is a strong Black woman.
Yes.
She doesn't mind arguing with you. If she's listening to me now, she's probably jumping on here want to argue. And I appreciate people like her because she likes healthy banter, healthy debate. And even with that, it's good debating with somebody intellectual because you pull something out of each other. And I always like being around Natasha. She's fire on the mic. And I know if she was spitting on the mic, they paid attention.
Outstanding.
I want to share a thought really quick regarding Miss Jasmine. Miss Jasmine is also a writer. And the reason I want to put that out there is because I'm I'm sure she's finding some interest in general and about not just the writing, but the poetry, all of that. And so one of the things that we've often over the years tried to do, Miss Jasmine, you guys have been with Smart Career Club for about 5-6 years, for a long time. Mm-hmm. So we've done different things, like whether it's poetry and talent shows and this and that, and all that artistic creation to assist them in being stronger with public speaking and all that type of stuff. And so we always think about, doing poetry slam, stuff like that. And one of the persons say this, I'm throwing a nugget out there for you, Mr. Shabazz. One of the things that I've seen Gino a couple of years back, and who's here doing something? I said, Black Poets Collective, y'all know we need to get together and do something, especially for the young people, so we could do something, because all the talent and a big part of. Go ahead, please.
Channel this towards Natasha, what you're saying. Channel this towards Natasha.
Absolutely. So we're gonna, yes. Well, and the reason.
I've been in touch with Sean. Sean, he just actually called me right before.
Wow.
We have had kind of discussions about, because he was thinking the same thing you were thinking.
Yes.
And if we had some help, I'm sure we could get together after this pandemic thing, and that might be something we would like to launch. I would like to see some younger, not necessarily what I call kids, but I would like to see college, high school.
Younger voices.
And I would like to start developing, not necessarily just for spoken word, but I want, like I said, I want to bring Lazarus. I want to be the fire to the people. I want to breed the next Michelle Obamas, the next Condoleezza Rice's, the next Obamas. And I think we can do that. But I need Natasha's help, and I need your help.
Absolutely.
And so if y'all want to help, if you're really serious.
I am serious. And so
and Gino is in Dallas, but he will help. I'll drag him into this.
Bring him in. And this is going to dive right into
Lewis. Lewis.
Yes, now I saw Lewis a couple months ago. We was down there at the Great Community Center, walking around the circle. Well, anyway,
let's let him in right now. Lewis,
come on in. So let me share this. This fits right into the leadership piece that we're doing. I'll talk about that just a little bit. Because when you mention all those people, the Obamas and the other names you mentioned. We think about community leaders. We think about, Mr. Boyd, Mr. Walker. We think about community leaders. And I don't think we've been doing a great job. And you correct me, wherever we have not been doing a great job in developing community leaders in our young people. We develop leaders, for careers and stuff like that. As a career club, we've done that for a long time. But sometimes we're not developing community leaders, because the list of characteristics, it's a little different. And one of the things we have to do is talk a little bit more about those characteristics of community leaders and what we're going to be doing in the Curtis Harmon Clinton Leadership Academy of developing community leaders. And that's, it's a leadership academy. That's a lot of what we're doing. Wow. And the young people like Miss Jasmine and some of our other comrades, the younger leaders, and Miss Paris helping to lead us, we're developing that, and a big part of it. And I'll quickly go through these characteristics only because, and we'll talk about them. Or Miss Jasmine, you want to help me, or want me to read them and then you comment? What do you think?
I can help.
You help me? Okay, great. So if you will, name off a couple of the 10 characteristics of community leaders.
Oh, community leaders.
I'll start and then you catch up. How's that?
Okay.
Cool. And so the first one for community leaders, again, different from business leaders, is they maximize individuals' strengths. And yes, we do that for businesses, but you think about in a community, so often we're talking about volunteers and staff, a little different. And we're leading organizations or leading people. And how are we making sure that we are definitely cultivating the strengths and the interests of people like a Miss Paris or a Miss Jasmine, meeting them kind of where they are, so that they can get in the community. If they have an interest in helping pets or helping homeless, it's a little different, but we got to maximize, and catch that fire. Because sometimes people, they'll come to you with some fire. They want to do something. If it ain't your dream, you be like, no, that's okay. But no.
This is sounding real good. Now tell me how many you have, please.
I have 10, but I'll start with that one. Are you ready, Miss Jasmine? You got one?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay. Are we talking about characteristics here, or
yes, ma'am?
Okay.
Characteristics, and there's 10 there.
Yeah. Okay. So I have one that's listening and learning. So I guess that I think that would be a good thing for community leaders, because you're listening to other people and they're giving their feedback on you, so you can help better how you work your leadership and how you show it to others, and how you get people to pick up off of your leadership and learn from you by listening to them and learning from them.
Excellent. Now, forgive me, and the reason I was asking about the number is because we're coming towards the end of the program. I want you to get them all in, but I also, Brother Walker was getting ready to respond to something that you said. And no, I want you to do the list.
Okay,
I'm
gonna list it and not do commentary on each one. How's that? And then
that's
that
great,
way,
because it's an important.
Because there's
list.
one that I will, but okay. So the other, balancing the needs of your leadership people, different people, what they need, working as a team, of course, mobilizing others. Think about whether it's the 75 million Trump got or the 76 million we got. Leaders mobilize all these people. And so that's
1 million.
And so then pitching in, practicing stewardship, being accountable to your community, meaning who's your community, not just your customer, thinking forward. The 9th one, which is really important, recruiting and mentoring new leaders. That's a piece that we're trying to do even more so, recruiting young people and then developing them and mentoring them. And then the number 10, walking beside them, not always trying to be out in front, because if you are a servant leader, then you're not always trying to be up front. So these are the things that we really are teaching our young leaders and helping them to practice as we teach them about their community, so they can go out, be more effective, and be those voices. But they have to learn how to read, write, critical think, and speak and advocate loudly, like as we're doing here. And that's why the radio is always so important to us, that we're always getting to practice talking and thinking, all that stuff. Okay, I'm done.
Now, let me say, Attorney Valencia Broadus, Paris Holly, Jasmine Hart, that our blessing, Brother Walker, is that they are repetitive guests. So believe me, we will want to revisit this time and again. I'm sorry that our time is getting away from us, but that means the substance of the program is such that the time does go rapidly. But I certainly did want to ask Brother Walker to respond, as he was responding when you mentioned his name and what we're talking about today, Brother Walker, and what your comments are. Oh, okay. Yes.
Thank you.
That is so good. Thank you very much. Jasmine, you were helping, and I was cutting you off, but you might have had another remark on that. So please go ahead.
I had 10 words of my own. I think I think we had like a different list or something. I don't know. We had a couple of the same things, but I also had empathy for the people in the community.
Yes.
Like reaching out and getting their stories and learning more about them as well. Honesty and integrity, dedication, service, interpersonal.
Wow.
I had the forward thinking, she had forward thinking. So intelligence and motivation.
Thank you. I just cannot thank you enough. I would like, in as much as one of your great mentors is with us, a response from Paris Holly, if she would, listening to that of which you are an integral part. Sister Paris.
Yes, honestly, greatness, patience, because I think a lot of this stuff deserves a lot of patience right now because it's new, it's unfamiliar, but it's very seen and we're very desensitized to a lot. It just is going to take a lot of patience to get back to where we need to be.
This is so good. As a matter of fact, I would like for Brother Shabazz to comment on what we are experiencing, what he is hearing from young Black women, and once again, let us not forget this particular program deals with Black women, but Brother Shabazz has an expertise that transcends particular gender. And from an historical perspective and current activities, let's go back to Nimrod Shabazz and your comments.
I'm gonna say this, and this kind of ties into everything, maybe what the book's about. I worked at a school, I won't say what particular, charter school in Kansas City for about 2.5 years. And a lot of the kids liked me there because they said I kept it real.
Are we all hearing? I'm having you talking softer than you were.
Anyway, one of the young ladies that was in my class made the statement toward the end of the year that I was the first positive Black male role model that she had ever had in class. And that really messed me up for a couple of weeks, because when I first met her, I guess maybe she was maybe 15, 16. So by the time she was a senior. And so I looked at her and I said, well, what about, your uncles? And she said, they ain't nothing. She said, my daddy ain't nothing. I've told you about, the story about mother. She's never wanted any negative men around me. She has like 3 sisters. And her mother, I respected her mother because her mother was a beast. She had told me how her mother always made sure that she would not be with any knuckleheaded boy. But it just kind of struck me that of all the guys that have been in her life, that it had taken 15 or 16 years for her to see one that was positive, one. And I talked to other females at the school, because I was like, and I told her, when she told me this, I said, if you setting the bar high, your bar is me, then your bar is very low, because I don't believe I'm all that for you to have said that. But I talked to some of the other women and the other teachers, and they were like, why does that surprise you, Mr. Shabazz? If you would listen to a lot of our women, our Black girls, they would tell you the same thing. And so when I wrote this book, at the end of the 2nd chapter, I make this statement, or maybe it's the end of the 3rd chapter. For all of the obstacles that Sojourner Truth faced, she was the first Black woman to win a court case in civil court when she sued to get her son back that had been sold into slavery. For everything that she faced, the only person that was in her corner was God, okay? She was unprotected. Think about everything Black women could accomplish. They've accomplished all this on their own. Think about how much they could accomplish if we were there and they were protected. Wow. We wouldn't be talking about it now, just a vice president, female vice president, and all the controversy it is. We would have had a Black female president a long time ago.
Shirley Chisholm
had been protected. You know how bad Michelle Obama was? She was badder than her husband. Kamala is a bad woman, but they don't get enough credit, and they always have to come behind a man. I'm gonna stop.
Okay, before you go, we're at the end of the program. I am so sorry because there's so much more that we could discuss. Brother Nimrod Shabazz, once again, how we can avail ourselves of your work.
Go online. They're on Amazon.com. You can also catch me on YouTube. I also have a WordPress a blog page on WordPress. If you Google either D. Tyler Davis, which I publish my historic work under, or N.M. Shabazz, you can put in both. You will Google and you'll find out the books and the links to the YouTube pages.
Thank you so very much. Thank you, Attorney Valencia Broaddus. Thank you, Jasmine Hart. Thank you, Paris Holly, producer, engineer, founder of KUAW. His name is Louis George Walker. Thank you for allowing us to use KUAW.org to enjoy this caliber of guest. We appreciate you all. We ran right up to the final minute. So I pray that you will allow us to invite you back again. Thank you for
Mr. Boyd. Will you connect myself and Mr. Nimrod, so meaning the information, so we can get together on doing that poetry?
Absolutely. Ooh, outstanding, without a doubt.
Serious.
Yes, absolutely.
Every time I try to get out, they pull me back in.
That's okay. We're going to pull you back out. Come on.
Today is Saturday, February 13th. My name is Carl Boyd. Wave your grades, Louis George Walker. It is time for me to say, gracious God and wonderful Wanda, I'm on my way home. In fact, I am home.